Before we begin, a quick medical update. I still have a boo-boo, but I am also out of band-aids, so just deal with it. And that is your TJOmega medical update for the day. Let's finish off this 2 weeks worth of Fembot goodness, and we will talk about Takara's third and our final entry into our new set of evil Fembots. This is Slipstream. Of course, the animated Seeker, one of the clones of Starscream, who we still don't know what side of Starscream it was, because Derek has been very, very secretive of it. At this point, I really don't think it was meant to... I really think it doesn't have any purpose. I don't think she was ever had any side of Starscream she was. It's just there to make you think. But nevertheless, it's produced some pretty neat toys, one I've reviewed in the past as well. And now we're going to review another one, because this continues to look really, really nice. Of course, it is the Windblade mold, so she is a VTOL jet, looking quite good in metallic purple and teal. The colors are a little bit more chaotic. You've got a lot of teal going through the center, but some purple, then teal, and then purple toward the back. Kind of loops around the entirety of the vehicle mode, going into the nose cone as well, all the main section in the cockpit. And then the teal off to the wings. It's mostly done in molded plastic, though there is some paint here and there in order to shore it up and blend things together a little bit better. You can see there's, for instance, the striping on the wings, all painted, of course. Little bits here and there as well. There's also little tiny details, the extra black, just to bring up some detail here in the top of the jet, as well as little lines all through the cockpit to really give you some distinctions. That's a very nice touch that I love when they do. Let's see, for a few little more observations. Soft plastic here in the nose cone, though not terribly soft, but just enough to not poke your eye out if you start running with it or anything. As far as other molds and decos, you've got a little bit of a gray plastic just for a few little bits and bobs here. The thrusters on the back, of course the tailfin, and the fans in the wings themselves, which give us our VTOL nature. These can, of course, just like Windblade, be adjusted and rotated forward, should you so choose. They also rotate inside, though it's a little bit hard to get them to move, and they don't really have a spin to them. So I'm not entirely sure why it was necessary to mold them as separate pieces that could rotate. I don't know. But they are done up in a translucent blue that's visible in the cockpit as well. So it all looks quite nice. And again, I am a fan of the jet mode. I said in Windblade's review that it does a good job of looking nothing like a Seeker jet. And if you're trying to be a unique shape of jet, that's very important. And the same still holds true here. She is definitely her own vehicle, and I think it's to her advantage. While she does have elements of a Seeker, she really defines herself separately from them, and that's probably for the best. Now, on the underside, you do have, we got some kibble, and we can definitely see the robot, but there is also some landing gear, which we can retract the front. The back is molded in, so we cannot retract it. What you'll also find on the underside are a couple of new accessories. These, of course, Seeker-esque null rays that are here attached to the side of the arms. Now, these are just frictioned on. If you remember from Windblade's mold, there's some blades hanging off the forearms. That's what it's pegged into right now. But you can see there are clips that do connect onto the elbow area of the arm. That's going to come into play more in the robot mode. Here, I find the way the arms are kind of shaped and configured, it brings the point of the guns a little bit too far inwards. So I leave them like this, just so they can point forward and look a little bit better. It does fill out a little bit of space in the back here, though what didn't get filled in was that gap. That's still a little bit problematic. I'm trying to find a lot of gaps in these toys lately. Someone told me Black Arachnia's neck gap could be fixed, but I pushed as hard on the torso as I could. It would not budge. That's just the way mine is. But I digress. Windblade does a nice job of becoming a female Seeker Starscream clone / possible G2 Ramjet homage that we've never really gotten confirmation of. But yeah, it's a nice job. I'm very happy with the vehicle. So let's get this thing into robot mode and see what the big changes to the figure are. And we're gonna get into some things that are a little bit more problematic. For starters, I will show you, like, you can tell everything kind of tabs together better on this one. I don't know if it's just Takara had a better version of the mold or what, but it does hold together much nicer than my US version, my Windblade did. So we will untab the wings from the rear section, and we can fold them out just to get them out of the way. Separate the legs from the rear out of the rear section. Rotate all of this around. Bring the leg down like so. That creates one leg, and we'll go ahead and do that on the other side. Down, hang on, wrong way. Down that goes. There we go. 2 legs, as well as a rotation at the waist. You're going to start seeing some of the new parts now, but don't worry, we'll discuss them when it's time. I want to keep the arms down for now, and we will bring all of this back. That goes outward. That one goes to the back like that. We can flip the head up. Now I'm going to raise the arms on these double hinges. Also raises the wings as they're attached to the back of the shoulder. Once the shoulders are in place, now I'm going to clip it all closed. That just makes it all come together a little bit smoother. Raise up the shoulder guards, and we're going to fold the wings to the back just to take them backward a little bit and keep them from really interfering with the robot mode too much. Make sure the heels are straight. And with that done, I believe I can set her down and call this a completed robot mode. Behold, we have a brand new form of Slipstream. Here you can definitely get a lot more of the traditional Seeker vibe out of her, but again, since it is a Windblade mold, she does do a lot of her own things, and that is, again, much to her benefit. There is Seeker elements, the wings on the backpack, and of course a lot of the remolds in the chest and the head. And we will get to all of them. First off, of course, this always starts with a close-up of the head, where I try very hard not to jiggle the toy a little too much, just in case someone has motion sickness, or just in case I really need a good shot for the thumbnail for the video. There's a few issues with this head. Like, okay, so it is a stylized Seeker head. That is obvious here. You do have some of the traditional stylings of a Seeker head going. I'm not a fan of her smile. She just looks way too happy here. Like, Slipstream, I know, is angry. She's hostile. She's conniving. She's always scheming, just like the real Starscream, but with a lot more of the courage, I find. This really just feels like a little bit too happy, a little bit too exaggerated for her. I'm not quite a fan of it, but it is what it is. It's a that's definitely a personal preference thing, so I'm not going to begrudge anyone if you disagree with that particular opinion. It's a review. It's all opinion. You're supposed to derive your own opinions based on what I'm showing you. So, we definitely have her in a very nice looking robot mode. A little bit more purple here, but the colors kind of bring themselves together a lot better. The teal is separated out into the wings and the legs, while a lot more purple is focused around the center mass of the toy. So it comes together a little bit more solid. And now we have the forearms adding a little bit more black to the equation, just to break things up a little bit. I think it's a very nice color balance, and she looks quite good to me. She probably looks, to me, just the best of all three. Like, all of the metallic colors going into her, and you can also see metallic silver going through the thighs as well. Just really making a lot of her stand out and giving her a nice sheen all over. Now we took a look at the head, so now I'll give you a full torso shot and see she's gotten a lot of remolding to her chest. So we see the traditional Seeker cockpit there. However, we also see a little bit of the intakes that are normally on the chest of the Seeker remolded into, well, yeah, lady parts. But it's not terribly done. It's not Black Arachnia bad or anything. It's at this point I will tell you that after being warned on previous figures, I did check this one out. It does match the plastic very, very closely. However, I do I do have full confidence this is completely painted over, and most likely the same clear plastic that goes into a lot of the other figures as new parts. I don't think they're gang molded, that'd be ridiculous, but I do think they all just kind of use the same clear plastic. Here's where it gets really bad on her. The entire back half of the head is completely unpainted. Now, you remember on Black Arachnia, every stitch of her head was painted. It's all clear plastic, but it was all completely painted over. However, here, nothing. Like, the back half is completely untouched. Now, this would be a case where light piping would be outstanding. You do the Universe Inferno trick that Nightbird pulled off so well. Unfortunately, the eyes are painted in completely opaque red plastic, or red paint, rather. And while I normally like bright, opaque eyes, they show much better. You know, and you can actually tell from a distance the character isn't dead. It seems like a waste, because this would have light piped really, really well. And I really don't see why they just left it unpainted. It seems very strange, and it makes her look a little bit weird when you have her at any particular angle. So that's unfortunate. And of course, this also means clear translucent ball joint is holding her head on. And unlike the others, this is a very small, very tight socket. I'm really not comfortable with this. Takara, why do you want your toys to break? I don't know what it is about Takara, and when they do weird things like this, you know, it's random pieces of chrome or heavy amounts of metallic in certain areas. Like, I'm not entirely sure why they make these aesthetic choices, but they do, and it gets more and more frustrating as they go. There's another frustrating choice here, but first I will show you her new components, which are, of course, the null rays shown off in vehicle mode. They're pretty much standard Starscream style null rays, a little bit sharper and a little bit shorter, which that's because we're going to attach them to the forearm rather than the bicep, which would be traditional. They slide onto these blades that are hanging off the forearms and then clip in just at the top of the elbow. I worry about these too because they're most likely completely translucent plastic painted over in silver, and that's a very tight clip. So I expect that to break at some point. But for now, it does give you the null ray look and gives her some accessory, just so you can have her in a little bit more of a standard seeker position. And it does look good. Like, it does fit the mold well enough. You know, like I said, there are hints of a seeker in here. You know, on Windblade, it does a good job of avoiding them, whereas the deco here kind of accents them. So it's a reversal of philosophy on the toy, and it works out pretty well. Let's see. So if we go to articulation, we have, of course, a ball jointed neck, and it's very tight. So I'm hesitant. The toy is brand new. I'm still hesitant to use that joint. It's so tight. Ball jointed shoulder, which is much better. There's a bicep swivel as well as a nice elbow bend, which gets to the 90-degree. Wrist rotation. Again, very tight on this one. This could make you feel a little bit nervous because these are rather thin parts because of the female design, but it holds up pretty well. Like, nothing's broken on my Windblade so far, and this one seems more solid than that. Waist rotation, full ball jointed thighs, which, again, just like Windblade, that little extension on the hip kind of interferes with getting them forward in certain angles, but you can work with it. It still has a good range. There is a rotation as well. It's a little bit hindered because the ball joint wants to move rather than the thigh rotation, but it's in there. Either way, the thigh does rotate side to side. 90 degrees at the knee. And again, you're going to face the exact same problem on the heels that Windblade had, as the hinge is not very tight and they don't clip in. So whenever you're setting it down, you're going to have to watch out to make sure those heels are centered and underneath the center mass of her weight. But overall, it makes for a very nice figure. It makes for a very nice amount of articulation. Now, is there anything you notice that seems to be missing in this package? Is there anything that seems left out? I mean, aside from logic when it comes to clear plastic. I keep calling her Windblade because it's still very much Windblade's mold. Slipstream is the only one of the 3 new Takara evil fembots who doesn't have her original accessories, which seems really strange considering the other two got to keep them. Like Black Arachnia had a gimmicked weapon that she got to keep. Nightbird, a ninja, still has a hand cannon or two to use, which seems a little out of character for her. Now, granted, the turbine energon sword thing is definitely Windblade's shtick, and that's very much her character, but I'm not sure I see the reason to not include it, especially when the others got to really keep their accessories, especially when Nightbird was accessory loaded for her size. So it comes off a little bit like I feel like I feel cheated. Like on its own, it's fine, but if you have all three and you start to see that pattern, then it starts to bug you a little bit. But for what she is very nice. Now, clear plastic aside, missing sword aside, she does a very, very good job of redoing a very distinct character into something more familiar. And it is a nice job of giving a kind of somewhat obscure but growing in popularity character another new figure that really kind of pushes what she can do and how far, Slipstream can go. If Windblade becomes a recurring character in Transformers, I certainly hope that Slipstream ends up being her go-to remold and repaint, because I would love to see this character get a little bit more spotlight and maybe a little bit more of what she was supposed to be if we gotten to see a little bit more of her in animated. Just watch the clear plastic. That's what makes it so hard, is that she definitely is the nicest of all three. She looks the best, but she definitely has the most shortcomings too. So it's a bit of a dice roll on her whether or not it's going to do it for you. So that's my review. That's everything I have to say about her, as I'm getting very long-winded in these reviews lately. But she's got a lot to go over, and I do like her. In spite of worrying about her long-term future, she still does a really nice job. Stop. Really, Takara, stop. No more clear plastic. Please.